my friends or I have been treated badly for being different. Yeah, actually, when I was younger, I had long hair, and people would criticize me and ridicule me because of that, because I wasn't conforming to the norm, I suppose. My friends, since they hung out with me, they got ridiculed as well. Like, why would you hang out with this guy because he's this way? Or
some bosses have treated me or have just thought that their way was the only way, and they didn't compromise about anything, and it was just their way, and they didn't listen to a lot of the youth in their establishment.
I guess teachers, like, they don't, like, they only accept certain, like, things, certain answers, and they don't, like, they can't look at it from other perspectives, like what you think.
Well, guys, in particular, when we fight, they're stubborn, and they always think they're right, and I'm sort of stubborn too, so we always get in fights a lot.
I'm Jewish, so people have stereotypes for me, but I don't think I've ever really been discriminated against or anything.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that have been treated different because they look different, because the other person might be more different than them or look better than them, they think, so yeah.
I guess it could be like the cheerleader way. If you're not perfect like them, then you're nothing.
A few of our friends, we go to Linden High School, and they get treated badly just because how they look and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think everyone's been mistreated for something, because everyone's pretty much different. Like, I was always pretty short my whole life. I've been mistreated about that. I got taller, then I started lifting weights, and then I get mistreated because I lift weights too much. They say I shoot steroids. Obviously I don't, but...
The 2000 census shows that America is more ethnically, racially, culturally, and linguistically diverse than ever before.
And no country in the world is as religiously diverse as the United States.
One source lists as many as 2,300 religious groups that are active in the United States.
In a country so diverse,
and at a time when people who are different from one another live so closely together, tolerance is not a luxury. It's essential.
Tolerance. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Marissa.
And I'm Ian.
And this is Realfaith TV.
Our spotlight guest Tom has experienced intolerance as a freshman in a new school.
He actually dreaded going to gym class.
We will meet Tom and our studio guest later in the show.
But first, let's go back to the teens on the street and find out if they think they are tolerant and respectful of others.
Do you consider yourself to be a tolerant person, one who respects others no matter how different they are?
Absolutely, I do. Well, I just grew up with a lot of people who were just white friends, and I just never thought of myself as different, and so I have that tolerance. I grew up with it.
Pretty much. Like, I'm not going to put somebody down because they're not like me, and I like to be nice to everybody and then get to know them before I judge them.
Yeah, I consider myself very tolerant.
Yeah, probably not as bad as that sounds, but
in some cases I can be. I don't know. It depends. I don't like phony people. Maybe that's why I don't like them.
I try to be a tolerant person and respect people, but some people, basically from my philosophy is you don't respect me, I'm not going to respect you. So that's why I try to be as nice to people as possible. But if they're just going to be like really rude to me or something, I'm just going to not even bother.
I guess so. I mean, a lot of times I'll disagree with what other people do, but I'll usually keep it to myself. So, I mean, I do like disagree and I get angry about certain things people do, but I usually hold it in. So I guess I seem pretty tolerant even though I might not be.
Yeah, I guess like we grew up in like pretty much everyone's the same. So like when I went to school, there was a lot of like different types of people, and it kind of opened my eyes to different like ways of thinking and acting. So I guess I am, but I'm definitely like trying to be more like with experience.
I definitely like what the last girl said about how she was grew up being equal with everyone else and saying that she's tolerant with other people.
Yeah. Let's see what our studio guests think about this.
Let's meet them first. They are Zoe, Elias, Aiden, Jessica, Anthony, and Jen.
So, do you consider yourself to be tolerant and respectful towards others?
Yeah, I do, because, well, I had to grow up with the younger brothers and sisters, so I always learned how to be tolerant of whatever they did. And so, you know, going into school, I definitely realized there were going to be different people, so I was like tolerant of different people. So.
Yeah, I try to, like, especially in school when there are different, like, social groups, I try to, like, mingle with everyone because I hate, like, separating groups. I guess you could say I don't believe in that kind of separation. I know it's there, but I just don't believe in that kind of way.
You know, I'm the same way as Elias. You know, like, there's all these different kinds of, like, groups of friends you have. You know, you have, like, the jocks, the nerds, all the, you know, like, cliche, you know. And I just pretty much fall into, like, every category. You know, I hang with these kids, I hang with those kids. You know, like, I hang out with the nerds, the jocks. I pretty much hang out with everybody, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I mean, I think it's such a pointless emotion to be racist, so to speak, or just not accepting of others, because you have to get along with them because you're living in the same world with them. So what is the point of just pushing them away to the side and treating them like they're nothing? It doesn't make sense.
Are there different groups within the student body at your school?
Do the faculty and the students themselves put people into categories?
Like jocks, nerds, artsy people, troublemakers, or students grouped by race or ethnicity?
When our spotlight guest Tom was a freshman at a new school, he was the target of some upper-class jocks.
Let's listen to his story and find out what he learned from the experience.
It was kind of more of the artistic, not too athletic, didn't enjoy sports, watching sports anywhere, getting involved in them. I was kind of, I mean, I guess you could say I was a weakling, you know, that'd be the proper term. I was basically afraid of every gym class. And in the morning I'd come into school, and the juniors and seniors and sophomores when I was a freshman. I mean, this always happens to all freshmen, but I was the kid they would pick out. And they would run me up against the wall, and they'd throw me up against the wall and say, "You ready for gym?" You know, and they'd threaten me, you know, "We're really gonna hit you this time." And now I look back on it, and it was, you know, it's all over now, but it scared me pretty good, because when guys that are 1.5 feet, 2 feet taller than you come up to you and throw up against the wall, and they tell you they're gonna hit you really hard, you're kind of, I'm dead, you know? I would try to fit in, and they would just, every time it was, "Fitzgerald, just be quiet, you know, just be quiet and don't even talk. Like, your voice is annoying," that sort of thing. And I got a lot of that. So I was, you know, shunned out of a lot of chat circles, if you want to call it that. They had their own world, their own life there, and I was trying to come into it. And I was different, and I didn't really know that. And they would play jokes on me, pretending they were extra holy. Not just simple, like, 1-minute jokes, you know, chop-busting jokes. It was over a period of months where they would just completely mess with me. And it's also hard, because once you become one of those guys, you start to grow a little bit. And once all those guys start to kind of pull you into their group, I think it's in Spider-Man, they say with great power comes great responsibilities. When you get higher up in ranking, I guess, or you get more power, it's definitely a temptation to go to the freshman now. And I do it a lot. But I see this one kid and I realize that kid is exactly what I was. Like, he is me, basically. And that's where I'm able to restrain in certain things and hold myself back from saying things to him. Because I realized I was in the same exact situation, and it definitely wasn't fun for me. So I think it'd be smarter for me if I just don't say anything to him, and maybe say a nice thing to him. You know, invite him into a conversation, or, you know, tell him he's doing a good job, stuff like that.
I like the quote from Spider-Man, "With great power comes great responsibility." I think we all have a power to be responsible and tolerant towards others.
It was interesting and common, I think, that once Tom became an upperclassman, he was tempted to treat the freshmen the same way he was treated.
Have you ever been in a situation like Tom where you were disrespected or treated badly for being different?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was in Canada over election time, so I go to school there, and a lot of people in Canada, you know, are really like anti-Bush, and they would say a lot of like terrible things in my political science tutorials about, you know, how people in the military are like murderers and, you know, how horrible they are. And my brother was in Iraq at the time, so for me it was kind of really hurtful because I was like, oh God, you know, and I would tell people things and they'd, you know, they would kind of change their opinion. They wouldn't say things like that around me, but, you know, until I told them, people would make those comments and it made me feel like, you know, just really bad, so.
You know, those little things in grammar school, you know, like, I remember when I was in 6th grade, the 8th graders used to act all tough, you know, and say, "Oh, you're worthless, you're not anything, you know. We're the rulers of the school and you're not," you know, stuff like that. And I don't know if you feel the same way, because we're both going to be freshmen, you know. I don't want that to happen again, you know what I mean? But it's going to happen. You got to deal with it.
I know that for most of my, well, even now, I'm still short, but now, like, everyone is always like, "Hey, midget and short stuff, and you know, I can brush it off most of the time, but it's the repetitiveness that gets to me.
Yeah, I really know what you mean. This year when I was on the basketball team, I also did the winter musical. And like sometimes I would have to split my time. So I would go to basketball and they'd be like, oh, why do you have to leave now? And I'd be like, oh, I have the musical. And I'm like, you're doing the musical? And you know, I'd walk away and you know, they'd be talking about me behind my back. And then I'd go to the musical and they're like, oh, why were you late today? I was like, oh, it was at basketball. And it'd be the same exact thing. And you know, I really felt that because I was in two different groups, you know, of classification, like jock and theater, I guess it would be called. I guess they really thought that I was an outsider and I looked down at them or something. I don't know, but they really treated me with disrespect and I didn't like it.
Yeah, and I have a story. It didn't happen to me personally, but I remember in 4th grade there was a kid who had ADHD. And so he acted very different from all the other students. He'd have random outbursts and he couldn't always like pay attention and sit still. And sometimes he'd bother people, but he didn't realize what he was doing. And so a lot of people would look down on him and make fun of him and talk about him behind his back. And I remember my best friend and I, we felt so bad for him, but just we didn't really know what to do to change people's opinions. We actually had a woman come in who worked with kids like that, and she did a presentation. She simulated what it would be like to have all those distractions to try to help us see it from his point of view, and that really helped. And it can be hard sometimes.
Well, what about the other side of the coin? Have you ever been intolerant towards others?
Well, there's one thing that I have to work on, and that's it's not that I'm prejudiced, but you know, like with all this like terrorism today and all this car bombings, hijackings, and all that, I get mad more easily at them than I would someone else. I'm a cashier at a farm market, and you always get the annoying customers. And if someone comes on my line, you know, and they're an annoying customer, I'll be like, okay, that person was really annoying. But if it was like a Middle Eastern person, you know, the stereotypes would kind of kick in, and I'd be like, wow, that was a really annoying person. You know what I mean? And I definitely have to work on that.
Well, and then there's like, I have my faults too. I mean, when say we're in a group and we're ragging on someone, and you get something pops in your head that you think will be funny, and you say it, and everyone laughs. It's kind of like, not only are you just trying to fit in, it's the fact that they're encouraging you by laughing. So it's kind of like they're not telling you to stop, and sometimes they'll just laugh it off. So it's the little things that'll get to you, and that's some of the things that I need to work on. And I need to be more accepting of other people when they're getting made fun of.
I know, like I said before, I play basketball, and you know, there's cheerleaders. And not that I have anything against cheerleaders, it's just like when they're cheering, I find it to be so distracting. So one time I was doing the stats for my sister's softball game, and these are 4th grade girls playing softball. So they're like cheering and they have all these in-sync cheers and they start singing. I'm like, be quiet! And like I got so mad at them and I got in trouble for yelling at them. But you know, I really have to learn how to be tolerable towards certain people.
Well, now that I think about it, after I told the story, I guess I wasn't really tolerant to the 6th graders or the 5th graders or the 4th graders when I was in 8th grade. So, wow.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that feels like a stab in the back now. It's like, whoa. So, I mean, hopefully when I'm a senior or junior, I'll learn from my past.
Intolerance of any kind is an offense against the dignity of a human person.
It lacks the charity to which we are called as followers of Christ.
Treating people with bias, stereotyping, or prejudging them all encourage intolerance.
Teenagers readily admit that stereotypes, prejudice, and bias are all part of their everyday experiences.
Let's see if the teens on the street felt that they prejudge people.
Well, of course I prejudge people. I mean, I shouldn't do that, but it's human nature to do so, I guess. Everyone does it.
Not really. I'm more so type like to get to know the person first, so.
I mean, you look at someone and that's the first thing that you think of is what they look like, and so sometimes you can't help judge.
Well, I did before, but I don't do it no more because I feel bad. I'm not gonna lie, I have, and it was wrong. I mean, I try not to. I try to like look beyond that, but I have in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you don't mean it, but like subconsciously you always do.
I definitely did because I guess like people say like you are who you hang out with, and if I saw like a group of people, then I guess like I judged them right away.
I do look at other people depending on like, there's certain people I wouldn't date, and I have opinions and they're kind of like strong.
It's just something that, like, you look at and you just say, like, oh, like, look at what she's wearing. It's not like you're trying to be mean. It's just something that happens, I guess.
Everybody has opinions. No matter what people say, if they say they haven't, I'm betting you they probably have at some point or another.
I hate to say it, but I definitely have. Like, usually, like, if I see someone doing something a little weird, like, I'll, like, get an impression on them. And, I mean, a lot of times, though, I can change my impression once I meet the person, but I always get an initial impression.
Why do you think people have a hard time getting along with those who are different from them?
I guess they don't give anybody a chance, really. And they just think that if you're not like them, then why bother?
I guess they put in their head that they're not very much alike, so they feel that they can't get along with them, and they don't try.
They have a bad attitude.
They think their way is the only way, and they have to be raised that way.
People are scared of what's different.
Because they're selfish.
Because they're very narrow-minded.
Maybe they don't understand people that are different from them, or they're just ignorant. Or they have problems at home, maybe.
So, do any of you guys prejudge people?
Yeah,
I think everybody
definitely.
does.
Why do you think that some people find it hard to get along with others who are different from them?
I think it's hard for some people because you can be having a conversation with somebody who has nothing in common with you, and it will probably be one-sided because they have no idea what you're talking about, and so they'll just kind of nod and smile at you. So.
And also, you know, sometimes the way people look, you know, kind of throw you off. You think they're automatically different from you. Like an example, I went to take an entrance exam at my high school, at my new high school, and I saw this kid there, and he was what you would label a surfer, and I'm not like really, I don't like go for that whole kind of, you know, thing. And then I actually sat next to the kid during the test, and I'm like, oh great. So then I actually started talking to him, and it was like, you know, oh, I can get along with this person. It's not like,
Tom has found change to be difficult.
He still works at being more tolerant and accepting towards others.
Let's see what helps him with this.
No one's perfect, and we all know that. We all fall into sin a lot. And like I said, it's an issue of change. When someone comes in that's far different from you, it's very hard to just say, you know what, I'm going to accept them. I'm annoyed with them. It's very hard just to say, you know what, I'm going to love them. And you have to be Christ-like and just, my father always says to me, he just says, I mean, sometimes it's annoying to me because he'll tell me, be Christ-like. And I don't want to. But at the same time, I have to just be like that, because if God took the cross for me and for all of the world, why can't I just accept one person who's a little bit different from me? Why can't I just, you know, suck it up and just be nice to them instead of just be a jerk all the time? On the outside, people may be different, but you never know what people are on the inside and how they feel on the inside unless you really talk to them and accept them. And then you start to realize that they are just the same people. They may look a little different, act a little different at certain times, but they're all the same people trying to go for the same thing. I go to a lot of meetings for my youth group. A lot of the times they'll come across issues of making fun of someone or saying sorry to someone. And when you're praying about it, you realize that you haven't been tolerant. I mean, yeah, when we have like prayer meetings and stuff, they'll bring it up, and you just gotta like say sorry to people and stuff like that. It's definitely a hard thing to say sorry, but when you pray a lot, you find that God will give you the confidence. And I know people will say, oh, praying doesn't work, you know, God never listens to you and stuff, but if you pray to God for confidence that you can do the right thing all the time and just say sorry to people that you've hurt, then you'll find that not exactly God will give you the words, but God will just give you the strength to just say whatever you have to say and just tell the truth. And you'll find that you're doing it without even noticing.
It's true. Nobody's perfect. I think we all struggle with accepting people at one time or another.
Yeah, do any of you struggle with this, with accepting people and being more tolerant?
You know, I'm really open to meeting new people and everything, but once someone does something that like either goes against my faith or does something that's not so appealing, you know, it's like I label them as something that's not as great as what initially happened. So it's sometimes hard for me to break that label.
Yeah, like I prejudge people, but that's only because of past experiences. Like I feel like I have some sort of background knowledge of them, but that won't affect the way me meeting them, and I'll still meet them and I'll still give them the respect they deserve until they disrespect me. And that's...
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's really hard if you're meeting someone for the first time and you've heard a lot of bad stuff about them beforehand to just look at them like it's your first time meeting them without any of that knowledge.
Yeah. What has helped you become a more tolerant person?
Does your faith teach you anything about tolerance?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
But I work at a daycare, and just the kids, they make you so much more patient and just, I don't know. And also going to a community college where there's a lot of different races, and even in my town where there's mostly white people, but you came to notice a lot more different cultures, and you came to appreciate some more of them.
I'm going to school and like meeting different people from different parts of like the country and different races.
Yeah, when I went through middle school and I learned a lot and I grew up and matured more.
I feel like a lot of times I would judge somebody, but then like after I started knowing who they really were, that really made me change. I should get to know somebody first.
What does your faith teach you about tolerance and acceptance of others and their beliefs? Does it challenge you to be more tolerant than you are?
I think it taught me to grow up and give people chances and just accept life as it is.
It's more like to be accepting of people instead of just judging them right away. Because, you know, judging people is not for us to do, it's for the big person upstairs to do.
Without being like prejudiced or judging people, it can get you like a longer way in life.
I believe in what my God says, and he says that everybody was created equally, so treat each other good.
That you should respect everybody no matter what color, size, or sex they are.
I should treat people like the same way I want to be treated.
Well, I'm Jewish, so like we have a history, like the Holocaust, you know, the Jews got killed just for being Jewish. So I mean, I know like what's happened to people, and I think it's wrong that you would pick people out just for being different in some way. So yeah, I think my faith definitely has a lot to do with it.
When we look at diversity and tolerance through the eyes of faith, we find that God shows no partiality.
Next, let's find out how Tom's faith has helped him to become more tolerant.
Jesus took the cross for the entire world, and he got spit on and, you know, beaten and whipped, you know. It sort of makes me feel stupid to a degree, or selfish, you know, because, like, if he tolerated all these people just being horrible to him and just, you know, treating him like garbage, then can't I just, you know, just be nice to one person instead of saying a mean comment or bullying them or making them feel bad? Every time you feel like saying something that's mean or want to make fun of someone, at first I found it hard to do that. You just say a little prayer to yourself really quick, and then you start to realize that even though there are people around, if you kind of live your life trying to see yourself in God's eyes, you'll find it so much easier just to hold back and say things that you really wouldn't say, but just say the right thing instead of the wrong thing. When I'm praying with God and stuff, I'm very truthful to myself. I don't try to when you're talking to other people, you find yourself definitely hiding things because you're afraid. But when you pray, you start to come to terms with yourself because it's just you and God. And you can say things to yourself and realize that you're doing the wrong thing. And you can just be real, 100%. And then once you pray a lot and you get into the habit of doing that, you can completely change your life. And it's a lot easier to live a good life. I mean, people say, how do you do that, you know? It's impossible to do that, you know? That kid's really stupid, you know? It's impossible not to make fun of him, you know? But with prayer, anything is possible. I know, like, it sounds kind of like a cheesy statement, but it really is true. Like, I used to think it didn't make any sense, but God gives you, like, immense confidence, and he'll help you out more than you even know.
I like what Tom said about being able to be totally honest with God in prayer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if you just kind of take a moment and reflect on what would Jesus do in that situation, how would he treat other people, and just take that moment to, try and dispel your preconceived notions and treat that person as a person.
Yeah, I know one thing my mom always taught me was give people the benefit of the doubt. I mean, you never know. You might see someone who's kind of mean to you or seems like they have an attitude or you don't agree with what they're saying, but you never know what they've been through, or maybe they have a personal problem, something that explains why they're acting that way. You never know. Maybe there's something going on.
That is great advice. And here's some more advice.
Look to the example of Jesus in the scriptures.
He spent time with all kinds of people.
And lots of them were not well thought of by society at the time.
Fishermen and tax collectors.
Scribes, Pharisees, and sinners.
Jesus touched lepers, healed the paralyzed and the blind.
He spoke to the Samaritan woman at the well.
He healed the Roman centurion slave.
And expelled the demon from the daughter of the Canaanite woman.
If we want to become more tolerant, we can pray for the grace to see each person in our lives as Jesus sees them.
And ask for particular help with those we find difficult to understand.
Do you have other ideas about how we can learn to appreciate differences and be more tolerant? We want to know.
Contact us through our website.
The address is realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And remember, the first step toward being more tolerant is honestly examine your attitudes, actions, and words.
Work to overcome prejudice and stereotypes and get to know people as individuals.
Ask God to forgive you for times you may have treated others unfairly.
Ask forgiveness for times when you saw people treated badly and did nothing to stop it.
And forgive those who misjudged or mistreated you out of their own intolerance.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV.
God bless.